Hello, hello, Awesome Soul here, and the wheelie big, yes, that is wheel, as in a wheel that rolls on the ground, has dropped, and it is rather glorious. This is actually one of my favorite updates, at least out of the more recent ones. And as I'm sure most of you are aware, this update has brought with it a lot of balance changes to movement parts that have been long overdue. Namely, the massive overhaul to wheels, and then there was also a pretty big buff to insect legs. Not only that, but we also got buffs to mech legs, we got buffs to sprinter legs, and we got buffs to tank tracks. And on top of that, we have the new Lommel Stinger, the smaller version of the existing lock-on missile launcher that you can see on the screen before you. Now, I know what some of you are saying. Awesome Soul, this is the wheelie big update. Why are you not playing a wheelbot on the screen? Well, the simple answer is I am absolutely god-awful at playing wheels. I have never made a wheelbot in Robocraft for a good 4 years. Pretty much since the whole game came out, I have rarely, if ever, played a wheelbot, let alone make my own. I mean, I've made a few, but those are more of like goofing around kind of builds, not even proper builds. So I am absolutely horrendous. I cannot drive a car to save my life. Do not get me wrong though, the wheels are a massive improvement over what they once were, and I'm very happy with how they've turned out. I'm just not very good at playing them. But what I am good at playing with is my old main movement method, which was the insect legs, and I am enjoying them immensely. I'm very glad to have them back, so I will be playing them on the screen for you. I've done a lot better in these games than my wheelbot games. I might show them off, but maybe after I get a little better. Anyways, what I am here to do is go over some of the things we have learned from the recent live stream. As you know, in these live streams, the developers do answer questions from the chat, and a lot of these questions were aimed at what exactly is going to be happening in the future. What's their sort of game plan after this update? Because the wheel rework is a pretty big step forward for them. The wheels have been pretty much neglected for a good, I want to say their whole lifetime, but that's probably not quite the case. They've just kind of slowly fallen behind over time. But, like I said, it is a big step forward. So, what exactly is going to happen next? Well, I'm here to tell you exactly that. Or at least some of what we've gathered. As I normally do for these kind of videos, I will be saying out the time codes where this information appears in the live stream video, and if you would like, the link is in the description if you want to hear it from their mouths instead of mine. To start us off here, the first bit of information comes in at around the 22-minute mark, and that gives us a clue as to what might possibly be in the next update, or at least an update that is coming very, very soon. And they say here, the wings rework, aka the aerofoils and rudder rework, are on the top of the to-do list. Next, at around the 25-minute mark, somebody was asking if they could shrink the building hitbox for wheels to make it a bit tighter. They said they might do it, but only if they feel it's necessary. And for right now, they're fairly happy with wheels, and they don't really want to change them too much. They also talked about how they have a few other items that have been causing them trouble, but they can't really fix those issues just because they would have to increase the size of the hitbox to fix those bugs, and then it's kind of a mess. So they're very cautious about tweaking hitboxes, it seems. So, I don't know, probably not. I guess you're just gonna have to live with the relatively large-ish building hitboxes that the wheels have, or at least for the time being. At the 32-minute mark, they talk about their changes for the update schedule. I think I might have talked about this before because Mark hinted at this in a tweet. I think I covered it, but I can't quite remember. So they say here, updates are now on a every 2-week basis. So you have 1 week, there's an update. Next week, there's no update. And then the week after that, there's another update. And then the week after that, there's no update, and then so on and so forth. And basically, whatever they have done at that point will go into the update. So it's kind of like a miscellaneous update, almost. Although that is the same style, if I'm not mistaken, that they used for this Wheelie Big update. And it did feel fairly structured. I guess they sort of choose one thing to make the big focal point of the update, and in this update's case, that was the wheels. But of course, we did get a lot of other good stuff mixed in with it. So yeah, I am actually quite happy with that style of update. Around that same time code, they also say that Custom Games Mark II, which is the one with the sliders so you can change the settings of your game, that might be mixed up into multiple updates. We might be getting Mark II Part 1 and Mark II Part 2. This way they can get the content out to you faster instead of just making sure they have all of the sliders ready and then get it out there. Which, hey, I'm all for. I mean, the faster we get our hands on at least some of them, the better. As I sort of alluded to earlier when I was talking about wheels, they are fairly happy with how they are at the moment. So don't expect to see any buffs or nerfs coming anytime soon. And of course they talk about that at the 35-minute mark. But here's a rather interesting one. At around 39 minutes, they talk about across the board, and that is a quote, across the board they want a legendary and epic variant for every weapon. Now, were they talking about things like a possible Mega Rail or a legendary Proto Seeker? Or were they specifically talking about things that are already kind of like the bigger weapons? So that would really only leave the Proto Seeker, because everything else, yeah, everything else has a big and small variant to that. And they kind of want to have an epic version and a legendary version, so two sizes of each weapon is what they're kind of aiming for as far as future weapons go. And they also say there, once they have that done, i.e. the epic and legendary version of all weapons, they want to have actual new weapons into the game. And the first on their list is the Gyro Mortar. They specifically give it a prefix this time. It's not just the mortar, it's the Gyro Mortar. And they do actually go into a little bit of detail on how this thing kind of looks and functions, I guess. I can't quite remember off the top of my head if we have ever heard the gyro prefix before. I think it might have actually been in the teaser, but I can't remember. Anyway, at around the 39-minute and 50-second mark, they get a question that's kind of asking about whether or not they have a checklist set out for their full release. What exactly has to be done before they can go into full release? Because as you know, the game still is in beta. Now, of course, I wouldn't personally take this as a set-in-stone absolute list. This is more of like a rattling off what was on the top of their head at the time kind of list. But it still does give some pretty good insight. So the things they listed off was the wheel rework, which I'm sure you know is now recently completed. Presumably they also mean a wing rework as well. They also want everything to have camera controls, which at the moment, if I have it right, is only wings. Do skis have camera controls? I can't remember. Does anyone even use skis is a better question. Funny enough, they actually talk about skis later on, but getting ahead of myself here. They want balance for all parts and at least 2 varieties of all weapons, which is what I talked about before. The epic version and the legendary version. And most importantly, they want everything to be clean, even, and fair, which is basically just a lot of balance changes. And I guess some quality of life improvements as well. The things they list off after the beta, so in Robocraft 1.0, they will be adding the Gyro Mortar. That one seemed pretty set in stone, but in 1.1, they possibly said maybe lava maps? We don't know. They also say whatever you guys want, so it seems like they're going to be listening to the community a fair bit after beta is over. Because right now it's kind of crunch time. The analogy they've said is if you've been working in a workshop for quite a while and, you know, you've been working away, you're gonna leave a lot of mess behind. And they've been out this for 4 years, so they have a lot of mess to clean up. And in the beta stage, this is kind of their cleanup. And one of the things was cleaning up the wheels and making them viable. just to give an example there. Next, somebody asks a question about the mech leg animation at around the 51-minute mark. This is something that I was kind of concerned about when the update came out. The insect legs and the mech legs got a decent speed increase. So especially with the mech legs and the other speed tweaks they've gotten, the way they move now is very odd. It seems like they're just kind of tiptoeing, but also shuffling around. It doesn't seem like they're big and beefy and mean looking. It's just kind of derpy to look at. So hopefully we do get an animation improvement. Although the insect legs actually do look okay, because, you know, it's a little insect. It's supposed to be scuttling around. But yeah, what they do say here is they would personally love to, and they do agree that they do look a little ridiculous. But the team actually has no animator, which I was kind of surprised by. I always assumed they had one, but the idea never really crossed my mind that they wouldn't have one. So it's a bit of a shame, but hopefully we will get one before full release. Because I don't think they would want to have any weird animations like that going into full release. At least, I hope so. Anyway, at the 57-minute mark, somebody brings up flamethrowers, which has been a pretty popular item as far as community goes, and they think they're nice, but they do have concerns about frame rate issues because it would be spewing out a constant stream of particle effects, and that might cause issues for lower-end PC users. So probably not anytime soon. And at the 58-minute mark, we have one that I don't think I've ever heard before. And that was a question about other Tesla shapes. Specifically, I believe the question asker asked about Tesla lances. You know, like a lance that an old knight would have when they're riding on a horse and try and joust people, that sort of thing. So they respond with, if the art team is free and doesn't have any other projects to work on, and the code team is busy, then that is at their highest priority. So basically this means whenever they don't have any new movement models to make or weapon models to make, they will be working on the models for different Tesla shapes, which I think is pretty cool. So in a way, it's kind of like how the mech legs are to the sprinter legs. They're similar, but different. At the 1 hour and 1 minute mark, this kind of clears up something from earlier. And somebody asks if there are ever going to be legendary varieties of every weapon in the game. And they respond with potentially yes. And then they also go on to say the PSK and Teslas are unique. So from what I can gather from that, we won't be seeing legendary Teslas or legendary PSKs. We might see epic versions of the PSK, but even for that, I wouldn't hold my breath. Then again, you never know. I honestly think, though, the Proto Seeker does kind of need to be reworked. It's in a weird spot, so maybe just adding another size up probably wouldn't really be the best. I don't know. And they also continue on from that statement at around the 1 hour and 2 minute mark, saying that sometime around the end of June, not really a confirmed date, but they will be talking about a Nano rework. So the healing guns, basically. Or rather, I should say a potential rework. And this isn't going to be a release in the end of June, this is just simply they're going to talk about it by the end of June. So that's pretty good. Nanos have kind of been in a little bit of a weird place. They're not useless, don't get me wrong. If you have a good healer on your team, you can do a lot of things. They just don't really have the same role as they once used to. They were kind of like the team anchor. But now that you have other healing options in the game, whether it be auto heal or base heal, it's just not quite the same. So it's going to be interesting to see what direction they take that in. Next up, we have more color options. Yes, please. This is at the 1 hour and 4 minute mark. This is something that I am very, very, very happy about. Hopefully, what they will also do with this is increase the pool of non-premium colors. Hopefully double it, or maybe what they could do is give the existing premium colors away as non-premium colors. And they want to add another batch of 16 for presumably premium members only. So what they do say here is they have been talking about it recently, and they are planning to have 32 colors as opposed to the current 16. They don't think they're going to go any higher than this, but keep in mind, they did say that they weren't planning on ever going any higher than 16. Probably about a year back they said that. And now they're saying they're gonna go with 32 colors? I don't know, I think any higher than 32 might be a little bit too much. There might be a bit too many crossover colors at that point. Because if you've ever played MechWarrior online, they have a ton of crossover colors, and you have to buy them individually, which is kind of a pain. So there's like a blue, and then there's a slightly lighter blue, but it's called something completely different, and I don't know. Their color system's kind of weird. But yeah, more colors. Hell yeah, I'll take it. And the final thing we have here is at the 1 hour and 6 minute mark, and that is that skis and insect legs are the next on the work list after the wings are done. So skis definitely need a rework. They need a lot of love because there's not a whole lot to them, and I honestly don't know how they could take them, possibly adding their own movement, like self-propulsion, but I don't know how they could do that, because they've recently made wheels have ridiculous amounts of speed, so how are they going to differentiate that from the skis? You would think they would have really high speed, but going any higher than 300 miles per hour might be a little bit too much to handle. And then the part about the insect legs. Now, I really do like what they've done in this update for the insect legs. They are definitely playable, but what I think they do need is just a few quality of life tweaks. Because unlike the other legs, they don't actually have their own rotation. They do have some auto-stabilization, which is nice, but it's not as powerful as the other ones. And what they could also do is have the legs try and reach out to ledges, because there's been a lot of times where I've leapt onto the side of a mountain, and then I just fall off. I don't know, I would kind of have to play around with the insect legs a little bit more to find all of their flaws, I guess. It's been a little while since I've played them because they've been incredibly underpowered. But yeah, I'm quite liking them, but they do need some tweaks. Anyways, that will bring this episode to a close. Let me know how you are enjoying the update and your opinions on what you heard throughout the video. I, of course, have been the Awesome Soul. I thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care.